Welcome to a Bible Talk Easter special. I'm your host, Sunny G, and today we'll be reading The Life of Jesus Christ, A Journey Through the Eyes of God, Part 5. Then, on the Sabbath, Jesus was at a synagogue and healed a woman who had been crippled by a spirit for 18 years. She was bent over and could not straighten up. Jesus put his hands on her, and immediately she straightened up. A little while later, on the Sabbath again, Jesus went to eat at the house of a prominent Pharisee. There was a man there with abnormal swelling of his body. Jesus asked the Pharisees if they had a child or an ox that fell into a well on the Sabbath, if they would not pull it out immediately. After Jesus said this, they had nothing to say. He then healed the man and sent him on his way. The time was getting near for Jesus to enter Jerusalem for the last time. So he began his journey and traveled there with his disciples. Now Jesus and his disciples were traveling along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As they were going to a village, 10 men with leprosy approached Jesus, and he healed them. But only one man out of the 10 came back. He was praising Jesus in a loud voice, threw himself at his feet, and thanked him. And that man was a Samaritan. As they were going through Samaria, Jesus sent messengers ahead of him to a Samaritan village to get things ready. But the people rejected him because he was heading to Jerusalem. Then John and his brother James asked Jesus if they should call fire down from heaven to destroy them. But Jesus turned and rebuked them. Later on, Jesus entered Jericho and approached a short man named Zacchaeus, who was a chief tax collector. He was in a fig tree because he couldn't see Jesus over the crowds. Jesus told him to come down and that he must stay at his house today. As Jesus went on from there, he healed 2 blind men that were following him. He took them indoors, touched their eyes, and their sight was restored. Later on, as Jesus and his disciples were leaving the city of Jericho, a blind man named Bartimaeus was sitting by the roadside begging. Many people told him to be quiet, but Jesus healed him, and the man followed Jesus along the road. Sometime after this, Jesus was in Bethany. While he was there, he would get blessed with perfume by 2 women. The first perfume occasion, a Pharisee by the name of Simon the leper invited Jesus and his disciples to his house for dinner. A woman brought an alabaster jar of expensive perfume made of pure nard. As Jesus was sitting at the table, she came up behind him and poured some perfume on his head. She then stood behind Jesus at his feet, crying, and began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she dried them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. Simon the leper told Jesus what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner. She most likely would have been a prostitute. Then the disciples said the perfume could have been sold for a lot of money and given to the poor. Jesus told them that this woman has done a beautiful thing and that what she has done will be told in memory of her. He then told the woman that her sins are forgiven and that her faith has saved her. The second perfume occasion, while Jesus was still in Bethany, he went to the house of Martha and Mary and their brother Lazarus, who was raised from the dead. They had a special dinner in Jesus' honor. While Martha was serving, Mary was at Jesus' feet, listening to him speak. Martha was angry and told Jesus that she is doing all the work and to tell Mary to come help her. But Jesus told Martha to let Mary be. Mary was more closer to Jesus than her sister Martha. Mary then poured a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume, on Jesus' feet. She then wiped his feet with her hair. Judas Iscariot argues that it could have been used for the poor. As he was keeper of the money bag, he would steal what was put into it. Shortly after, the wife of Zebedee came to Jesus and asked him if her sons, James and John, could sit beside him in his kingdom. But Jesus told her that these places belong to those prepared by the Father. The other 10 disciples were angry at James and John when they heard this. A little later, Jesus and his disciples arrived at Bethphage on the Mount of Olives. Jesus sent 2 disciples to a village and told them to bring a donkey and her colt to him. This took place to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Zechariah. Rejoice greatly, daughter Zion. Shout, daughter Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you, righteous and victorious, lowly and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. Zechariah 9, verse 9. A great crowd heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem. They came to him, shouting and praising him, and brought palm branches. Later on, Jesus went to the temple courts, and seeing people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and exchanging money. Jesus became so furious with them, he told them to stop turning his Father's house into a market, a den of thieves, and that his house will be called a house of prayer for all nations. He then flipped their tables and made a whip out of cords and drove everyone out. The chief priests and teachers of the law wanted a sign to show them he had authority to do all this. Jesus answered them and said, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." The Jews were confused when he said this and told Jesus it took 46 years to build the temple. But the temple Jesus was talking about was his body, which would be resurrected on the 3rd day. One day, early in the morning, Jesus was hungry. He saw a fig tree by the road and went up to it, but found nothing on it except leaves. Then he told the tree that it will never bear fruit again, and immediately the tree withered and died. Jesus then had a discussion with the Pharisees about paying taxes and told them to give him a coin. He asked them whose inscription was on the coin, and to give Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. That same day, Jesus had a discussion with the Sadducees about marriage and told them that when they die, neither will marry or be given in marriage, and that they will be like the angels in heaven. When Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, one of the Pharisees, who was an expert in the law, asked Jesus what the greatest commandment is. Jesus gave him 2 answers and told him, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. And second, love your neighbor as yourself." All the law and the prophets go through these 2 commandments. Jesus then told his disciples and the crowds to watch out for the hypocrisy of the Pharisees and teachers of the law, because a while ago they came to Jesus and asked them why his disciples don't wash their hands before they eat. Jesus called them hypocrites and told them the prophet Isaiah was right about them, as it is written. The Lord says, "These people come near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship of me is based on merely human rules they have been taught." Isaiah 29, verse 13. The Pharisees and teachers of the law were stubborn individuals whose hearts still had not softened. Jesus would call them out every chance he got. Jesus then sat down and watched everyone put their money into the temple treasury. Jesus saw many rich people throw in large amounts, but he was amazed at the poor widow who put in everything she had to live on, 2 very small copper coins, worth only a few cents. Shortly after, Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives with his disciples, telling them about the end times, as it is written by the prophet Isaiah. The stars of heaven and their constellations will not show their light. The rising sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. Isaiah 13, verse 10. He tells them that no one will know the hour of the Lord's return, and to keep watch and always be ready. On 3 different occasions, Jesus told his disciples he was going to die. He predicted his death 3 times to them. Thanks for tuning in. Join me next time as we'll be reading Part 6.